I've laid my shawl out here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna start at this left side where we have our stitch left over from casting off, down to the point, up back to the right side to the cast off edge, picking up all of our stitches. So I currently have my size 10.5 needles on, so I'm gonna switch those to the smaller ones that we're doing the lace in, the size 9s. We're going to pick up our stitches in these spaces that we have from doing the yarn overs. You should pick up 113 stitches. We'll have 114 total, including that one that we have left over from casting off. Continue picking up along this first side, and when you get down to that marker that we placed in the very beginning, I will show you what we're supposed to do there. So when we get down here to that marker that we placed in the very beginning, we're going to keep picking up stitches. You're going to move that marker that you placed in the beginning down to the newly picked up stitch, and then you're going to take 2 markers and place one on either side of that marker that you just moved down. So we'll have 3 right in the center, and we're going to need those to do the lace later on so it doesn't curl up on us. Now just finish picking up the rest of your stitches, ending at the cast off edge. I do like to grab one directly underneath the edge here so that there isn't any space in between your body and the lace. Now that we've finished picking up all those stitches, what we're going to do is we're going to take the right side and make sure it's facing you. Cast on 6 stitches onto your left needle using the backward loop cast on. All you have to do for the backwards loop is holding the yarn in your left palm. You're going to wrap it around your thumb, going from the back to the front, and then you're going to pull your thumb out and pull the working yarn to tighten it. And once you're done casting off, we're going to turn our work and we're going to purl across just those 6 stitches that we just cast on. So after we purl across those 6 stitches, you're going to bring your working yarn to the front and then slip that first stitch purlwise onto your right needle. I did it knitwise here, but I'm going to have to flip it around in a second. So slip just the first stitch purlwise and then turn your work around. So that's the setup for our first lace row. So you should have 7 stitches on your needle right now with the yarn in the back. So now for our first lace row, what we're going to do is we're going to knit 2 together and knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, going front to back, and then knit 2. Now turn your work, and what we're going to do is knit across those 7 stitches that you just knit. There's going to be a space in between your 7 and the other stitches on the body. So knit across the 7 stitches, and then you're going to bring your yarn to the front and slip that first stitch off purlwise. So we're going to knit across the 7. Make sure you bring your yarn to the front. I forgot to do it here. Bring your yarn to the front and then slip that stitch off purlwise. So this is going to be the basic lace pattern, is knit 2 together, then the amount of stitches you knit in between that is going to increase, and then yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 2. So you always end with a knit 2. And then on the opposite side, then you would knit across and slip your stitch. So now on our second row, we're going to knit 2 together, now we're going to knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2, and turn your work. We knit across on the opposite side, don't purl like I made the mistake of doing, or almost doing. Knit across, you are now 8 stitches, bring your yarn to the front and slip off that stitch purlwise. Now we're going to turn our work. We're going to knit 2 together, now knit 3, yarn over front to back, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2. Turn your work, knit across your now 9 stitches, bring your working yarn to the front and slip off that first stitch purlwise. Now turn your work, I'm going to knit 2 together, knit 4, if you ever get confused about like how many you're on, you'll always have 4 at the end, 2 in between your yarn overs, and then 2 at the very end. So I'm going to yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2. Turn your work, knit across your now 10 stitches, bring your yarn to the front, slip off that first stitch purlwise, turn your work. knit 2 together. You're going to knit 5, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our work and we are going to bind off the first 5 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'll have 5 stitches on your left needle and then 1 stitch on your right needle. So you have 6 stitches left over total. Finish knitting across those last 5 stitches. Bring your yarn to the front and slip off that first stitch purlwise. So now we're back to that first step where we're going to knit 2 together, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2, and you're just going to repeat those last 10 steps that we did until you get down to the point, and I will show you the steps that we do for that. So I just finished the row right before that first stitch marker. All we are going to do for these 3 stitches is instead of slipping a stitch every wrong side row, we are going to slip a stitch every other wrong side row. That's going to keep it from curling up and let it lay nice and flat down here. So it doesn't really matter which part of the lace pattern you're on at this point, it's going to be the same every way. So the point I'm on, I have just finished my 9th row, so I am casting off 5 stitches. Then I'm going to knit across those last 5 stitches. Bring the yarn to the front, slip that stitch off purlwise, and now I'll be starting from step 1 of that lace pattern. So knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2, turn your work, knit across those stitches, and then do not slip a stitch. Just turn your work. And then instead of on these ones, you won't be knitting 2 together as the first step. So you'll just be knitting 3, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2. Now turn your work. We're going to knit across those stitches. And then this time we're going to bring the working yarn to the front and slip that next stitch off purlwise because we did not slip a stitch on the last row. Make sure you bring yarn to the front. Forgot again to bring my yarn to the front. Turn your work, and then now you will knit 2 together because we slipped that stitch. So knit 2 together, knit 3, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2. Turn your work, knit across those stitches, and then we're not going to slip a stitch because we slipped one on the last round. So we're just going to turn our work, and now we are going to knit 5 stitches. We're not knitting 2 together because we didn't slip any stitches. 4, 5, yarn over, knit 2 together, slippery yarn, yarn over, knit 2. Turn our work, knit across those stitches, bring yarn to the front, slip the stitch purlwise, turn your work. Now we're going to knit 2 together, knit 5, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2. Turn your work. We're going to bind off 5 stitches. You should have 6 stitches left. Going to knit across. And then don't slip any stitches. This is going to be our last round of not slipping any stitches. And turn your work. Again, we're not going to do any knitting 2 together because we didn't slip a stitch, so just knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2. Turn your work. I'm going to knit 7. And then you're going to bring your yarn to the front and slip 1 stitch purlwise. Now you're going to knit 2 together, knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit 2. Now as you can see, our lace down here lays nice and flat. It'll still curl up a little bit when you're finished knitting all of the lace along the other side, but after it's done blocking, it will flatten out. Now resume knitting the pattern as you did for the other side, where you slip 1 stitch purlwise on every wrong side row. When you get to the end, your last row should be a bind off row, so instead of binding off only 5 stitches, you'll bind off all 11 stitches.